Hello, everybody, and welcome in on a Tuesday afternoon. Peegs.com's Matt Weaver, Jared Kelly here, breaking down Indiana's 42-28 win over Maryland. Going to get into some of Kurt Cignetti's Monday press conference, hit on the highlights there, and then look ahead to Indiana's Week 6 game at Northwestern, where a chance to clinch bowl eligibility is up for grabs heading into the bye week in Evanston. Matt, there's a lot to cover here. Indiana 5-0, obviously, just kind of unheard of with this football program, and everything they've accomplished this season has been nothing short of remarkable. But the win over Maryland, you lose a turnover battle 4-0. Curtis worked those two interceptions on back-to-back throws, and Indiana just never, it just really never felt like Indiana lost control of that game, even with the slow start, everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah, you're right. I think everybody's a little bit, taken aback by their interceptions. I think the second one was, it might have been a little bit more on the receiver than on Rourke. Obviously the first one, it just looked like maybe he didn't see the safety back there for Maryland. But yeah, they can give the defense a ton of credit. 4 turnovers, and I don't think they got any points. They didn't get any points after the turnovers, and they might not even got a first down. Maryland's offense. So, excuse me. Ton of credit to the defense for really bowing up and doing their job and keeping them in the game. And then until the offense got going, and obviously the offense got going, 42 points. They scored all, I believe, in the first quarter, 42 points over the last 3 quarters. And who knows, if it wasn't for those turnovers, it might have been another 50 plus game for them. So, good performance. It was, I think actually the adversity and some of the mistakes they made, could actually in a weird kind of way be beneficial. It's something that you can learn from, something they've not had to deal with at all. And it's probably going to happen again. There's going to be a quarter or half where, things don't go your way and you got to learn to play through it. And it's a veteran team, so they've been through this. But, I thought it was actually kind of a positive. You want to get the win, obviously. You don't want it to turn into a loss. But, hopefully this is something they can build on going forward and starting this week in Northwestern.
Yeah, I've read and listened to a lot of different reactions coming out of this game, and it's funny that everyone keeps mentioning the adversity. And Indiana still wins by 14. I mean, when was the last time you heard adversity and Indiana go hand in hand, and then you still walk away with a 2 touchdown win? The other thing too that I keep coming back to with this game, and really this whole season as a whole, I mean, Indiana putting up 42 points on a Big Ten team, and people kind of just gloss over that. I mean, last season that might have been like the most points they scored all season in the Big Ten, and for them to score 42 and kind of get brushed over, it really is kind of just phenomenal how everything has turned over from one season to the next.
Yeah, and then and they gave away the 4 turnovers, those 4 possessions right there where they obviously didn't get points. So I'm not saying they would have scored on all 4 of those, but you got to feel like the way that the offense has been playing, the way it played Saturday when they did take care of the ball, you're probably getting scores on at least a couple of those. So yeah, like I said again, you're talking it could have been another 50 plus, maybe pushing 60-point game against the Big Ten opponent, and like you said, this just doesn't happen. I mean, it is especially at Indiana. So, credit this. Like I said, I'm not smarter than anybody else, but people were freaked out about that first, game offensive performance against FIU. We saw it when we went to practice. You could see it, how good this offense could be, and it's almost becoming expected. I mean, maybe we shouldn't, but it's like you just expect them to go out there, and I think they're at 48.8. I mean, you score 42 points and your average per points comes down. That's how good they've been this year offensively. So I don't know if there's a better statement to the success they've had on that side of the ball than that.
No, you're totally right. I mean, at this point, it just feels very normal for Indiana to be scoring 40 plus. Yeah, they're 48.8 through 5 games, which is third in the nation, only allowing 13 points per game as well, which is 13th in the nation. So very impressive on both sides of the ball there as well. I did want to touch on a couple individual standouts that we didn't get to kind of in the post game on Saturday evening. It was really good to see Donovan McCulley. I thought get in the game there in the red zone, catch a pass out of the slot, touchdown pass out of the slot. That is. I'm interested to see if he will get more opportunities here, not just as a red zone threat and more as a consistent, down to down guy. Like we've talked about before, how crowded the wide receiver room is, so it might be tough for him to kind of find his way onto the field because I don't know who you take out. But it was good to see him get in the end zone, and you can see kind of how excited he was and the rest of the team was for him. And then this is kind of what I thought was going to happen when Big Ten play ramped up. And, there's still a long way to go, but Tyson Lawton and Justice Ellison kind of breaking away as the top two backs in Indiana's running back room. That kind of hasn't surprised me, but it's kind of it is what we saw in the Maryland game as well. I don't know if you have anybody else that you could kind of caught your eye there.
No, I mean, I think it was great that Donovan McCauley, like you said, got that touchdown. It's still, and I've said this to you when we sat in the press box, maybe in podcast. It's remarkable to me that we're 5 games in the season, they're averaging 48.8 points a game, throwing for well over 200 yards, and he's got 2 catches. Yeah. And over the last 5 games of the season last year, I think he was basically, it was like an average of like, I want to say like 6-7 catches a game for about 80-90 yards, and he had like 5 or 6 touchdowns total. So I mean, this is a guy that proved himself, and asked Rourke about it after the game. How big would it be if you could get him even more involved? And like you said, it's tough. Like there's only so many balls to go around. There's only so many snaps in the game. Surratt's been phenomenal. Omar Cooper's been phenomenal. Miles Cross, had a quieter game Saturday, but he's been great. Those would be probably the guys you'd look to because, obviously, although they put Donovan in the slot on that touchdown play, so maybe that's something they can look to do. But it's an embarrassment of riches at receiver for Indiana, and it shows when a guy like Don McCauley is struggling to get on the field. So, other standouts for me, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is the guy he's been playing well all year. I'm really impressed with Amari Farrell. I think he's a good football player. They start him out at that kind of rover position, and then they move him back into the safety spot where they go to more of a traditional like 4-3 type of defense. I thought I know Jameer Johnson got the penalty on that one drive where they were way backed up, but I thought Pons and Johnson played pretty well against some really good receivers. I mean, they gave up a long pass play, but you're going to give that up against a Prather and a Ty Felton. And I know Felton didn't play the whole game; Prather got banged up, but I thought they did a good job against those guys. So, James Carpenter's a guy that's kind of been a little bit, up and down. He, according to PFF, had a couple of poor games. I thought he played really well Saturday. He had the 2 penalties, but he was in the backfield a lot. So CJ West is really coming on. Obviously, McCall Kamara is just, I mean, the guy's a stud. I mean, he is a really, really good football player. It's amazing that nobody wanted him out of high school, but he's a really good football player. And then, once again, PFF grades taken for what, but Trey Weddick's play is really, according to them, has gone up. I mean, I was looking at, I think he's the second highest rated lineman on the team, according to PFF. And early on, he looked like he was struggling, but he's really come on. The whole line's playing great. I mean, Bob Bostad has done a tremendous job, which is to be expected with his track record.
Mm-hmm. The thing with Kamara too, and I totally agree with you. He leads Indiana in pressures this year, and he's just been in the backfield on pretty much every single play this season. The only thing I can think why he was lowly recruited was just his size. I think he's like 162. But he gets off the ball so quickly, and he's so explosive off the edge. It's so hard for those tackles to kind of contain him. And it was fun. It was funny too. I know we were talking about this during the game. Maryland's right tackle, I think it was. I think he was a Georgia transfer, and he was just awful that game. That was in no small part because of Kamara and just how much how much pressure he puts on the quarterback as well. And you did make I like the point you made too about CJ West and James Carpenter coming along. Because I think that's an important part. A lot of the JMU teams of the past, because they were, they found so much defensive success was in the middle of their D line. Just being able to kind of bottle up those holes and push the offensive line backwards. And we're kind of seeing that come to fruition, and that really opens up a lot of possibilities. And we even saw, I think, Indiana dialed up a couple more blitzes in this game as well, and a couple of them got through. So. We are starting to see the scheme evolve a little bit too, which is good to see. Jalen Walker had a half a sack, Aiden Fisher had half a sack. So Indiana's trying new things, and I think just the defensive line, especially kind of evolving as they have, will just allow the defense to play a lot more aggressive.
And one guy on the D line that's kind of floating on the radar, Tyree Tucker's playing really well. Yeah. I mean, once again, take PFF grades for it, but I think he's the second highest graded, or second or third highest grade. Now, he's not a starter, but he's in the rotation. Guy they got late for another JMU guy, and he's been terrific this year in a supporting role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then offensively, I did one more guy I want to touch on too, Zach Horton, and I posted about this a lot on the board and social media and stuff. I'm a big Zach Horton
Yeah.
fan, and I know a lot of people, other people are too. But if you might be more of a casual fan who kind of just watches the game, and takes it for what it is, I would kind of push you to watch Zach Horton on every single play and just see what he does because he makes such a big impact, even when he's not touching the ball. He obviously had that one, terrific diving catch that was you kind of had to go backwards across his body to get the ball. That was huge, but just the way he blocks and how much effort he plays with and energy, and this is a guy that's basically playing every single play for Indiana as well, and it just looks like he never slows down. He really is, one of those pieces that Indiana cannot afford to lose this season because of how important he is in both the run and pass game.
Yeah, I mean his stats are modest. I think he's got 9 catches for around like maybe 80 yards somewhere around there. He got that one touchdown I think against FIU. I think it was the first touchdown of the year if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
This is where I like I said I think the PFF grade story is fun and it's interesting to do. Sometimes I mean his run blocking grade 64.5, which to me
There's
that
no
yeah
way.
does that. There's no way that tells the story because like he is a tremendous run blocker. Um, you know, did a great job. I think you were the one that put out a tweet. There was a play where Drew Evans took out like 3 Maryland guys
Yeah, yeah.
on a block. Now I don't know if that was intentional, but the bottom line is he did. But it's all of them. But yeah, Zach, if you're going to be a good running team, your tight end or tight ends have to block well. And Zach Horton and Indiana's been a very good running team this year, and Zach Horton is a huge part of that. And this is a guy that probably could be catching 6, 7 balls a game. I mean, he's that talented as a receiver, but like a lot of these guys, they're bought into the team success. And that's more important than the individual. And he's been, all these JMU guys have been tremendous. I mean, you can see why they were so good. They're good football players, but you can tell that they're high character, team first, kind of selfless players, and it shows through in how this team and all the players, not just the JMU guys, but yeah, Horton's been terrific. I'm a big fan of his, and like I said, his PFF grade I don't think reflects what he's meant to this team.
Hmm. Yeah, and you think back to that tight end position. Tight end position at IU has not been featured or used or developed, even you could say, well the past couple of years. You had AJ Barner, who I think he caught a touchdown last night on the Monday Night Football game, but
Yeah.
that's besides the point. I mean, even he obviously had a ton of potential. Didn't really pan out at IU. Went to Michigan and then found his way, into the NFL. But the tight end position for a couple of years now, ever since Peyton Hendershot, just really has struggled to really do anything at Indiana. And I think it's really refreshing now to see a staff that puts a premium on their tight ends, not only in the pass catching, but especially as a sixth blocker. Because Indiana last year they wanted to run the ball a ton last year. Obviously, they just didn't have the personnel to do it. Could you imagine, a Zach Horton on last year's team? I don't know how much of a difference that would have made, but at least you'd have to imagine the run blocking would have been at least marginally better with him on the team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just so like I said, he's just so important. That guy's so important in so many ways, for popping runs, and so he's been an absolutely huge addition, and hopefully they can keep him healthy, and they can keep going. I think Tyler Stevens playing some tight end has been a good move by the staff, as well. But Zach Horton has just been. I mean, he's kind of. I mean, the MVP is probably Curtis Rourke for as well as he's played, but you can
Mhm.
make a strong case that Zach Horton, when you're talking about value to the team, is just as valuable as anybody on that side of the ball.
Yeah, yeah. These are guys that are basically playing every snap on offense and then also defense as well. Coming out of the Maryland game, Matt, I did want to go a little bit big picture on the 5-0 start. We touched on this a ton, in the post game because obviously it was the big story coming out of the game. But now that we're past it, now that we've had a couple days and Indiana's now ranked 23rd in the AP poll, and the good feelings, I guess you could say, have kind of subsided a little bit, and it's all full head of steam to Northwestern. Now that you've kind of had a chance to think about everything that's gone into this 5-0 start and just how truly historic it is, did you have any kind of lingering thoughts on just how Indiana's been able to ascend so quickly?
Well, I'm not totally surprised that they're 5-0. I mean, I thought we talked about this all in before the season in fall training camp or fall camp, and then the start of the season. We felt like they had three, fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but kind of, give me games in the non-conference. And then you felt like if they go to UCLA and win, there was a real chance to be 4-0, and then the chance to get to 6-0 with Maryland Northwestern, which obviously they've done them taking care of Maryland. What I am surprised by is how dominating they've been. And even in the Maryland game, it was 14 points. But I mean, Indiana was up 3 scores late in the fourth quarter, and I mean they were playing a little bit of prevent there. Maryland went down the field and got that touchdown, but even that game they won going away. I mean they've once it's got into the late third quarter, fourth quarter, they basically have not been challenged this year. All these games have pretty much been decided, some earlier than others, but yeah, that to me is the biggest thing. I thought they would had a chance to be 6-0. Like I said, I didn't think it would be. I want to say it's been easy, but at times they've made it look easy. You know what I mean? They've made it look like teams that we're used to seeing doing this. And I'm not saying they're an Ohio State or a Bama or a Georgia, but those are the teams that usually see averaging 48.8 points a game, winning by 3 or 4 touchdowns every week, and sometimes more. Now it's gonna, like we've always talked about, the schedule's going to get harder, but this is, I mean, it's a good football team. I mean, it is. We said in the press box, this is a well coached, good football team. So while I'm not surprised by the record, I am a little bit surprised by how they've gotten there. But it's obviously been a pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm. That is something I wanted to bring up too, because I think a lot of folks have kind of discounting Indiana's start, and we've even seen it with the AP poll and kind of how maybe a little resistant some voters are to put IU into the poll because of their strength of schedule. And we heard it after the UCLA game. They haven't played anybody yet. We heard it after Charlotte, obviously. Still hearing it after Maryland. They haven't played anybody yet. I mean, we're 5 games into the year. And at this point, I mean, I don't know how much more you can keep moving the goalpost back, because, I mean, this is what Indiana's schedule is. I mean, you can keep moving the goalpost back, but then what are you going to say? Northwestern's not a great team. No, they're not. Isn't Nebraska's not a great team. I mean, they look like they should be a solid 8, 7, 8, 9 win team this year. Washington's struggling. So, I mean, how far back are you going to push the goalpost? The Michigan game, is everything like before that kind of irrelevant? Like, I don't really understand that argument, because not only is Indiana winning, but they're also blowing out these teams, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, once again, I'm not comparing Indiana to Ohio State or Michigan or one of those teams that are traditionally in the top 10. But if Ohio State had played these 5 games and won by the scores Indiana had won, what would people be saying? Oh, Ohio State looks great. They look like they're going to, they look like they're a playoff team, and they're going to be playing for the national title. I'm not saying that about Indiana, but I think it's getting discounted because it is Indiana. Oh, you're not playing anybody. Well, if Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State or any other school that was, a named school played the same schedule, people would be falling all over themselves talking about how great they're playing, how good they look. And I get it. I mean, Indiana's is one of the 5, maybe even higher than that, worst programs in the history of college football. But that's in the past. This is this year, and right now, this team, even at 23rd, seems underrated to me. I think you can make a strong case that this is a top 15 team in the country right now, the way they're playing. Will they be that at the end of the year? We'll see. They may be higher, they may be lower, but I find it hard to me. It's hard to find 15 teams that are playing football better than Indiana right now, and it may be less than that, but I'll say 15 right now. There can't be 15 that are playing football better than this team.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the stats too, I mean, basically in every single statistical category, as a team, offensively and defensively, they're basically top 15, top 20 in the nation, in a host of those categories. So, it is just, it's kind of wild to think about just, how little the benefit of the doubt Indiana gets, which I understand, because of how, how little success they've had, and it's going to take a lot more time for people to really trust this team to, that they are the real deal. But yeah, this goalpost moving and just keep pushing back Indiana's accomplishments at this point in the season seems, pretty unfair to me. But, I don't know if a win at Northwestern is going to change anything. I highly doubt it. Maybe a win against Nebraska for a chance to go to 7-0. Maybe that changes things in a lot of people's eyes. But I mean, you're 5-0. I don't know what more Indiana can do at this point to kind of change the minds of those people who want to keep pushing the goalpost back as well. I did want to talk too. I had this written down. I don't think we've touched on this a lot, but Indiana's durability this season and ability to stay healthy, I think has gone under the radar, Matt. We're 5 games into the year. You have not had a significant injury, significant long-term injury. You had the Nick Kidwell injury in fall camp, but he obviously had the prior, history with knee injuries. But the work that Derek Owens and his staff have done to keep this team healthy, should not go unnoticed.
Oh, absolutely. And, some of it's luck too. I mean, let's be honest, staying healthy is some of it's luck, but a big part of it is what the strength staff does. That's the biggest part of it. And, I thought the strength program took a dip when they lost Dave Ballou to Alabama in 2020. And we saw that, I think, the last 3 or 4 years, Indiana was teams like Idaho, Akron, were physically whipping Indiana up front. That's not happening anymore, especially against the lower level teams. This team can compete physically, with about anybody. So there's a reason why he was one of the first hires for Curt Cignetti. I'd heard great things about him and his staff. They've done a great job. This team, when I was out at fall camp, they looked different. I mean, especially really notice it in the trenches. With the linemen, they didn't kind of maybe have the guts that I saw in the past. They're big guys, so they're gonna have a little bit of a belly, but they just looked a little bit leaner. But at the same time, it didn't look like it impacted their strength and explosiveness and powerfulness and stuff like that. So kudos to him. If they're like we talked about this before, if there's one concern going forward, can these guys keep playing the snaps they're playing and stay healthy? Hopefully that they can. And the 2 bye weeks will definitely help. You get one after Northwestern, then you play 4 games and you get another one. So that really, really helps. So, but if this team, they can keep them healthy, obviously there are good things ahead. But yeah, great job by Coach Owens and those guys in that weight room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like too the 2 bye weeks this season obviously is an anomaly for most because of the leap year, but I feel like they fell at the perfect time on Indiana's schedule because we saw teams like Purdue and UCLA and other teams have week 2, week 3 buys, and then you're playing what like 6, 7, 8 games before you're getting to that second bye. Whereas Indiana is kind of spaced out almost perfectly, to cut the season into thirds, if you will. So that should help as well. You'd have to imagine, if you can get through the Northwestern game, relatively unscathed, you feel good going into that bye week. You get 2 weeks to rest, and then you prepare for those 2 home games against Nebraska and Washington. So, I thought that was important. I did want to just kind of highlight that a little bit, just how injury free Indiana has been this year, and we'll see what happens with Derek McCormick and Alejandro Quintero as they come back from injuries as well. And then James Bamba too, Matt. I wanted to mention because he was back on the field this past weekend when we thought the knee injury had looked at least it looked pretty bad, and for him to come
Yeah.
back after 2 weeks was pretty huge.
Yeah, it was. I know you're the one who usually does. It was the first week he wasn't on the injury report, correct? Since
Yeah.
since that game. So yeah, and hopefully you can work him back in because he was getting playing time, and while he's not a huge weapon, he's made a name for himself as a blocker. And if you can get him more maybe involved as a blocker, then maybe you could let Zach Horton, maybe get a little bit more involved in the passing game. As good as he is as a blocker, it still would be nice to get him, kind of because he's such a great weapon in the passing game. But if you get Bamba back, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So let's move on here, Matt. Week 6, Indiana with the chance to go to 6-0. If they win this game, they would become the first team in the FBS to reach bowl eligibility, which again another feat in its own that I don't think is getting talked about enough. Indiana right now is 13-point favorites over Northwestern, which I don't know the last time Indiana was a double-digit favorite on the road. Just wild times we're in right now, but 13 sorry, they opened at 13-point favorites. I think they're around 13 and a half, 14 now. ESPN's FPI has them at an 84.8% chance to win. This is a Northwestern team that last season kind of had that wild ride with the Pat Fitzgerald saga, and then David Braun comes in, and what did they win, 10 games last year, 9-10 games last year. But we've kind of really seen them come crashing back down to earth this year. The offense especially has really struggled for them.
Yeah, and I think you put on the weather report. It looks like it's actually going to be pretty good, maybe
Yeah.
73 and sunny. To me, if I'm Northwestern, I hate that weather report.
Yeah.
I would want it to be windy. I'd even want, hopefully, probably too early for snow, but rain, kind of crappy conditions, because I think if this game, this for them to have any chance this game, it's going to have to be, maybe not like I'm not sure. I can't remember the score of the Miami Ohio game was like 16-10 or something. Maybe not quite, but this game can't get into the high 20s, 30s. They can't get into a shootout. They have no chance to win this game. It's got to be like a 2017 or 17-14 type of game, in my opinion, for them to be able to stick around. And I'm just not sure that's going to happen the way Indiana's offense. It is going to be probably their toughest test of the year for the Indiana offense. It's probably the best defense they faced. I just think they're going to have so many opportunities, and at some point they're going to wear those guys out, because North Indiana's defense is also playing well. It'd be one thing if that side of the ball was giving up a lot of points and yards, but they're not. Northwestern's already made a quarterback change. They looked horrible 2 weeks ago, or I guess about a week and a half ago out at Washington. It was like 24-5. So obviously their defense got them 2 points on a safety. They're just really struggling offensively. So like I said, this game gets up into the 20s and 30s. I don't see any way they can keep it close.
Yeah. And then offensively too, they're still trying to figure out what they have at quarterback, because Mike Wright, the transfer they brought in, he got replaced pretty quickly, got a quick hook. And then Jack Lausch, he was pretty terrible against in a loss against Washington last week. So if you don't have a quarterback, it's going to be very tough to win in this conference. Indiana has a quarterback. Northwestern does not seem to have at least a consistent one right now. So that's going to be tough. The running back, Cam Porter, who, he's kind of come on strong the last couple of years. He's been hurt, but it looks like he's trending back towards maybe being ready for this game. We'll see if they can get him back. That'll obviously help Northwestern's run game. But this Northwestern team really hangs their hat on the defensive side of the ball, which is no surprise, because David Braun was set to be their defensive coordinator before the Pat Fitzgerald saga happened, and then he got elevated, obviously, to head coach. So their defense actually is playing pretty well this year. So that will be kind of an interesting chess match with Mike Shanahan against that defense. But all things considered, you kind of have to like Indiana here, just with the fact that Northwestern's offense is playing as poorly as it is, and Indiana's offense this season has shown to be prolific. And we don't expect that to change too much.
No, I don't. And like I said, I mean, it's probably gonna be a little bit more of a struggle. Running the ball might be a little bit more difficult. I just think Indiana's got too many weapons, and I think I just don't. I think they're going to really struggle to slow this offense down. Is Indiana going to put up 45, 50 points? That's probably going to be a tough challenge. But like I said, I could easily see this game Indiana getting into the 30s and winning. I mean, I know it's 13 points. We're talking about that's a lot for Indiana. I could easily see this game being a 3-score difference, 3-touchdown difference when it's all said and done.
Mm-hmm. And the over under for this game is only 42.5, I believe it is. Yeah, 42.5. So Indiana being 13-point favorites, that basically means they expect Indiana to score almost all the points in this game.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're assuming the weather is good. And assuming you keep Curtis Rourke healthy and you keep the bulk of your starters healthy, I don't think too many people are going to be predicting a close one here. Obviously the odds makers aren't. All right, let's get into score predictions here. I'm with you. I think this is a blowout. If the weather holds steady, 75 and sunny, little wind off the lake there. If everything kind of holds as we expect it to, I think Indiana wins in a blowout. I think they put a ton of points on the board. I think Northwestern gets maybe a touchdown and a couple field goals. So I'll go Indiana 35, Northwestern 10.
Okay. Yeah, you about read my mind. I'm going to go 35-13. So yeah, I think they're going to get into the 30s, and I think Northwestern gets a touchdown, maybe a couple field goals. But I'm with you. I think, like I said, I think this is a game where Indiana keeps playing the way they're playing. They win this game by 3 scores, and kind of win going away.
Mm-hmm. And obviously that would put them at 6-0 going into the bye week, which is just crazy to wrap our heads around there. Matt, have you thought about any travel plans yet to Florida?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I've just because it'll obviously be during my kids' Christmas break, and I've shown my wife, I said, "What do you think about going to Orlando or or the one and nothing gets this. And I hope I don't offend anybody. I've been to the Independence Bowl. I hope it's not the Independence Bowl. Shreveport, Louisiana is not the most exciting place in the world to visit. And Schlayback on ESPN has had them in that bowl game for like 3 straight weeks or something, I think. I don't know if he's just, I think it was him.
I think he just forgets to move them. He just forgets they're there.
Yeah, maybe he just forgot, but the Citrus Bowl or the one in Tampa, to all the Peaksters out there, party at Mike Pigram's house if we're in
Yeah.
Tampa.
He did say we could sleep over.
Yeah, so but I mean, it's unbelievable that we're talking about this after the fifth game, like because it's basically a done deal because barring something crazy, it kind of is a done deal. I mean, we don't know where they're going to go, but you feel like 8 wins, 9 wins, maybe 10 wins is going to happen, and they're going to be playing somewhere pretty nice for the first time in a while. So it's a lot of fun to talk about, and obviously could be a lot of fun to go watch them play. And hopefully, I don't think Indiana's won a bowl game since '91, the Copper
Yeah.
Bowl. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's '91. So we're talking, what is that? Geez, we're over 30 years. It's a long time. So it'd be nice to not only get to a bowl game, but actually win one too.
Yeah. It's funny hearing all these records too. 67 last time I went 5-0, 91 last time I won a bowl game. Yeah, I wasn't born until 2000, so there's been a lot of things that have never happened in my
The,
lifetime.
the last time they went 5-0, my dad was 23 years old. He's now
Oh,
he's now 80. So I mean, you know what I mean? So that just puts it in perspective for me. That's crazy.
no, it's really hard to wrap your head around everything that's happening this season, but we're in it. It's been a fun ride. We've enjoyed covering it, and I know the fans too have loved every second. This Northwestern game, we do expect you expect a lot of Indiana fans there too, just because of the alumni in the area. I know, for me, a couple of my friends have said they're going already as well. Myself and I think Jeff Rabjohns will be there covering the game. So that will be cool to kind of see the facility and everything over on the Lakeside Field. Matt, any last thoughts here before we get out?
No, just have fun up there. I know you're from up in that area, so get to go home a little bit and I guess probably see some family or whatever. But have a good trip and enjoy the soccer field / football stadium. The views should be spectacular. So yeah, the views should be awesome. So enjoy it and have fun and hopefully another win for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, and then you also get the since it's 3:30 kick, hopefully you get to see some of the sun setting over the lake too,
Yeah.
which would be pretty cool. So yeah, we'll be there on Saturday with coverage live from the field in Evanston, and Matt obviously will have his post-game coverage as well over on Peegs.com. 3:30 kick on Big Ten Network. Indiana looks to go 6-0 against Northwestern, chance to lock up bowl eligibility before getting into the bye week. That's all we have for this week, folks. Thanks again for joining us on our midweek podcast. Matt Weaver, Jared Kelly, we'll see you guys over on Peegs.com.